Ugh. UV unwrapping. Welcome. Now, this isn't a fun subject. It's quite a dry subject, but it's quite a useful subject. This is not going to be the most in-depth tutorial about UV unwrapping because I'm not very good at it. However, the reason we're doing it, or the reason I'm doing it, is whenever Blender uses a procedural texture, it has to do a lot of thinking. So it's a lot of pressure on the CPU. So it has to calculate every element of every node tree. So every noise texture, every bump node, um, every bit of shininess, every mapping node, Blender has to think about before it does it. So in a complex scene, it can really, really slow it down. Not so much for just a single model, but if you wanted to have a Dalek army in a control panel, control room, or attacking the TARDIS or something like that, it can really, really slow down your render time. So what we're going to do is unwrap this model, and we're going to bake the elements to an image texture, and then plug that image texture into the shader. So I'll talk you through it as I'm doing it. Before I start, though, what I want to do is show you how I got this lighting in a rendered viewport. So we've been doing a lot of things in just viewport shading, where it uses this default HDRI. What we can do, if we go into rendered viewport, you can see the lighting is a bit more interesting. And the way I've done that is in our world settings over here, world properties. I go into open image, and I've got these HDRI files. So at the moment I'm using small hanger, which is a really, really nice default one because it's quite neutral. Say you wanted, for example, this one in a park. It's a little bit more blue tinted, and just gives it a different look. But I'm going to go back to my small hanger, and I got these from polyhaven.com, which is a really, really good website. And it has things like textures, models, and HDRIs. Loads and loads of HDRIs. You can even get an add-on for Blender, but I haven't installed that yet. So, UV unwrapping. So let's just remind ourselves what we're going to be doing. So if we click on a random object and then go into the shading workspace, you can see, rather than it just being one texture, we've got noise, separate noise for the bump, some color ramps, a bump node, these mapping coordinates over here. And yeah, Blender's just having a lot to think about. So we have one of these for basically every material. So the fender, again, a bit more complex. This blue plastic, all a bit complex. So we are going to solve this by baking everything except this this shoulder mesh here, and these lights, and the bulbs, and this neck mesh. In fact, we can do this neck mesh as well. We'll probably do that as a separate object, but everything else we're going to bake into a single image. Now, to do that, we need to unwrap the model. And what unwrapping basically means is taking a 3D object and laying it flat on a 2D surface. So, easiest thing to unwrap is a cube, and you've probably all seen what a flattened cube looks like. Now, a Dalek is not a cube, so it's going to be quite awkward, but Blender's tools do make it quite easy. So we'll go through it. I won't show you how to unwrap the whole thing, because that'll go on forever, but I'll show you the basics of what I'm going to be doing. So, first thing we want to do, go into our UV editing workspace. And I've clearly got it set up from when I did the neck, so let's just bring back our main Dalek here. Let's make this window a bit bigger on the left. So the first thing we're going to do is hide all the bits we don't want to unwrap. So we don't need to unwrap these dome lights, so H to hide. Can I put screencast keys on here? Apparently not. Okay. And then these bulbs, H to hide. This shoulder mesh, H to hide. And for now, let's just hide the neck mesh, H to hide. So let's start with the skirt object. So if we click this, then backspace to go into it. And then let's tab into edit mode and double tap A to deselect everything. So the key to UV unwrapping, we want to find edges that we can flatten out without disrupting the flow of the mesh. Now, for this, it's not particularly difficult because we've already done all the texturing, so we can, if we want to, just A to select everything, press U, and then just do Smart UV Project. Just unwrap. And Blender does a really, really good job of guessing where things are supposed to be. And actually, we could just leave it like that. We could do that for every single one. But I'm not going to for this particular model, just because if I do want to take it into Photoshop, I want to know where I can paint the textures, and this is a bit confusing. So let's undo that by Control-Z. Double tap A to deselect everything. Make sure you're in edge mode, and we're going to Alt-Shift-S. Click this top edge, so it goes all the way around. Alt-Shift-S, click this one, and we're going to Alt-Shift-S, click this one, and then one that won't get in the way is probably one of these bevels we've created. So Alt-Shift-S, select that one. So you can see we've got all these different yellow lines. We're going to press U, and then mark seam. So if we go out of that, you can see there's now this little red line we've just selected. These are our seams. So press A, press U, and unwrap angle based. And you can see this is our unwrapped Dalek. And actually that is not bad at all. So good, excellent. We kind of have an idea of where everything is. Now, what I'm going to do here is press G, whilst over the texture here, press G, and just move him outside this square. Because everything in this square is going to be our texture map. And because I'm going to unwrap everything to this single texture map, I want to have a bit of control over where I put it. So I'm going to unwrap each individual object, and then we're going to manually position them inside this texture. So let's press backspace again. Tab into object mode and press H to hide the skirt. Now let's do this fender. So same process, tab into edit mode, double tap A to deselect everything, 2 for edge mode, Alt-Shift-S here, and this bottom face as well, so there's Alt-Shift-S. Oh, no. In fact, change this, 3 for face mode, select this edge here, press U, and then mark seam, and then double tap A, 2 for edge select, go back to this top one here, and let's pick another. It will probably pick the equivalent of the one we've just done, so Alt-Shift-S, this one here, and then control click here, and then control click so it links up to this seam here. U, mark seam, A to select everything, U, unwrap angle based. Yep, that's good. And then just move him out the way. And tab back into object mode, H, and that hides the fender. Now let's do these hemispheres. So tab into object to edit mode, A to select everything, and this one is sort of a cheat. You can literally just press U, unwrap angle based, and it does that all there. Now what I want to do with these, because you see they're all very, very close to each other, so you get these overlapping faces. Let's just click where it says unwrap here and change our margin to 0.05. That's in fact way too much, so let's change it to 0.005. And there you go. And now you can see there's space between each of these. Cool. Let's just scale these down. So with everything selected, you can just scale them all at once. Scale down. Grab and just move them out of the way. And then tap back into object mode, H to hide. And we're already halfway done, really. So it's going to get a little bit more complicated with these objects up here. So for example, let's do the, in fact, the shoulders is really easy. Let's just tab into that. Backspace just to select everything. Tab into edit mode. Double tap A. What I'm going to do is in edge mode, Control-Shift-S, this top one. Control-Shift-S, this bottom one. And again, let's just pick an edge here at the back. And shift-click that. U, mark seam. A to select everything. U, unwrap angle based. There we go. Okay, let's just drag him out the way. Backslash again. Tab out of edit mode into object mode. H to hide. What should we do now? Let's do... I'm going to show you a different way of doing things. Let's pick this arm here. So arm stage 1, shift and select arm stage 2, and then also shift and select the gun, and then also select these gun rods. With everything selected, tab into edit mode, A to select everything, and we're going to go U, and then smart UV project. Just change our island margin to 0.05, unwrap, and that's done a really good job of unwrapping all those different objects. So over here in the texture, press A to select everything, S, just scale it down, and let's just move them out of the way. So just up here somewhere. Then H to hide. Let's do our... I said I wasn't going to do everything, but I might as well. We're very nearly done. So let's grab our plunger here, tab into edit mode, just press period key or full stop key on the numpad just to bring it in. And now a good thing to do is to pick hard edges. So A to deselect everything, 2 for edge mode. Let's control shift click this edge. Let's control shift click this edge. And I think that should be enough. Yeah, U, mark seam, A to select everything, U, unwrap angle based. Yep, good. And then went over here, A to select everything and just move them out the way. Let's go move them out there. This will all make sense why I'm doing this in a moment. So tab into object mode, H to hide that. Let's do these. Let's do these little screws. So select the screws, tab into edit mode, A to select everything, and then press U, and smart UV project. No, let's not do that. Control Z to undo that. Let's do U, unwrap angle based. There we go. A to select everything, S to scale it down, and just move him over here. And then tab into object mode, H to hide. Let's do these gun and arm balls. So select this one, and while holding shift, select this one as well. Tab into edit mode, and actually it just so happens that the things that we need to put a seam in are already selected. If not, seam in. Just double tap A to deselect. 3 for face mode. Select this one here and this one here. So shift select those. U, mark seam, A, U, unwrap angle based. There we are. Grab, press A to select everything over here and just move them out of the way. Object mode, H to hide. Let's do these gun boxes. So tab here, or select here, tab into edit mode. Again, some of the... Do you know what? Let's just press backslash. Yeah, cool. Okay, we're going to go into edit mode for this. So we're going to press 3. We're going to select this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And on this side, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. U, mark seam, and then we're going to go into double tap A, deselect, press 2 for edge mode, and Alt Shift S, this inner edge here, and this one here, and same on this one, so that and that. Press U, mark seam, and then A to select everything, U, unwrap angle based. Lovely. And again, A to select everything and just move them out of the way. And then backslash, object mode, H to hide. Let's do the shoulder bands now. So let's just grab those, backslash, tab, A to select everything. I just want to see what happens if I U and then smart UV project. No, that's a bit messy. Control Z, undo that. Let's pop some seams in. So, edge mode, let's select this ring here. So just over the bevel. Make sure that goes all the way around. It does. And then Alt Shift S this line here. So again, just above the bevel, and Alt-Shift-S this one here, Alt-Shift-S this one here, and that should go all the way around, which it does, and then Alt-Shift-S this one here, and then U, mark seam, and let's do exactly the same for down here. So select this lowering, Alt-Shift-S, then up here, just by the bevel, Alt-Shift-S, and then this one here, Alt-Shift-S. No, not that one. Ooh. Okay, let's do it a bit differently. So let's zoom in a little bit and Control-Shift-Click this one here, and then Alt-Shift-S. No. Let's Control-Shift-Click this one, and then just keep Control-Shift-Clicking this one so it goes all the way around. Oops. Stupid topology. It's my own fault for doing a bad model. Control-Shift-Click and just keep working around. I mean, I didn't do a bad model. This is perfectly fine modeling. Everything I've done is brilliant. Control-Shift-Click, 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 Control-Shift-Click. There we go. And then finally this edge here. Shift-Click. U, mark seam. A to select everything. U, unwrap angle based. That's better. Again, it's actually not much of an issue with how we've textured this. If we were actually painting the textures in Photoshop, this would be an issue, but yeah. So A to select everything over here. We can just scale it down a little bit and then just grab him and move him. Scroll on, give ourselves some space. Backslash, tab into object mode and hide those. Now these little connector boxes here, we can just literally tab into edit mode, A to select everything, U, Smart UV project, unwrap. That's fine because we're barely going to see these. So A to select everything, G to grab, S to scale. Again, we're just going to move these out of the way. Then hide those. And for these shoulder slats, we can do the same. So tab into edit mode, A to select everything, U, Smart UV project. That's fine. A to select everything. Just drag him away somewhere. Object mode, hide. We can do it for these rods as well. So A, oh, everything's already selected. Sorry, I meant tab, but everything's already selected. U, Smart UV project. That's good. A, and just drag him out the way. Object mode, H to hide. For the eye objects, so let's select this one. In fact, let's hide the acrylic tube. So just select this, H to hide, because we're going to have to leave that one procedural. Well, we don't have to, but yeah, let's leave it procedural. But for these, let's grab this inner tube, this outer tube. So I'm shift clicking the pivot and the rings. Tab into edit mode, A to select everything. U and Smart UV project. Yeah, that's fine. A to select everything, just scale it down. Move them out of the way. H to hide. Now for this eye globe, tab into edit mode. Let's 2 for face mode. And let's select Alt-Shift-S this inner ring, this outer edge here. Again, we're looking for sharp edges. Let's go Alt-Shift-S this one here, and Alt-Shift-S, not Alt-Shift-S, Alt-Shift-Select this one here. U, mark seam, A, U, unwrap angle based. And that's lovely. And again, let's just move him out of the way. H to hide these neck rings. So select here. Tab into edit mode, double tap A. Now we want this inner edge here. So Alt-Shift-S, this inner edge here, this inner edge here, this one here, and this one here, and U, mark seam, A, U, unwrap angle based. Great. Just scale that down for a minute. And then hide that. And then finally we want the dome object here. So tab into edit mode, do 3 for face select. Let's grab this inner ring here, U, mark seam, and then we just want to fix this opening. So double tap A, 2 for edge mode. Let's select Alt Shift, select that inner edge, and let's see, this one? No, let's do this one. So the one just inside the bevel that goes all the way around. And then U, mark seam, A, U, unwrap angle based. Let's just leave that there for now. And that is the whole model unwrapped. But if I tab out of edit mode, Alt H to unhide everything, you can see everything is everywhere because of how we've made it. So scroll out, you see all these little UV islands. So what I'm going to do is show you how to position everything properly. So again, what we need to do is hide all the objects we don't want. So we don't want this, H, we don't want that, H, we don't want the mesh here, so H. Now, if we A to select everything, and then Shift click just one of the objects, so say this one here. Oh, we don't need the neck either, sorry, hide that. A to select everything, and then it's just, oh, what are you in here? Interesting. Let's just Shift click the dome, and then tab into edit mode. Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. Cool. Is it fine? Okay. What I'm going to do is work out what these UVs are. So you see this little feature up here. It's called UV sync selection. So let's turn that on. And then double tap A, deselect everything. I'm going to go 3 for face mode. I'm going to pick just a random face here. And then we're going to hover over our model, press the period key. Oh, it's because it's this inner tube. Okay. Let's tab out of edit mode. Select this inner tube here. H for hide. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Tab back in. Select everything. A to select everything. Shift click a random object. So I'm going to do the dome. And then tab A to select everything. And let's just turn off this sync selection. So these are all our UVs and they are everywhere. Now what we can do is tab them all, scale them all, rotate them all so they take up space within this box here. So we want to give priority to the bigger things. So for example, the skirt, the dome, and the shoulders wherever they've ended up. But I'll show you the first few things I'm going to be doing and then I'll pause because this is actually taking a while. So say we start with this here dome. So double tap A, deselect everything. Hover your cursor over the dome whilst in face mode. Press L and it'll select all the faces linked to this object. And we're just going to scale him down like that. And then let's just drag him over here. And then double tap A, grab this one here, S for scale. And let's just bring him over here. Now, we don't want any of these islands overlapping with each other because then it'll interfere with the textures. This one here is the bottom of the dome, which we're never going to see. So we can make this one really, really small. So L to select it, S, scale it down, just drag him up here. So that is our dome. Let's do the skirt now as well. Now this is a big object, so it needs a lot of resolution, but let's just L to select everything. We're going to rotate it. So R, rotate, and then 90. So it's a bit flatter. Grab him into this box. Just S, scale him down a little bit, and then just pop him over here. And then this is the top of the skirt here. Double tap A, just grab that. Now we're never going to see this one either, so let's just scale him right down, S for scale, and grab and just pop him in the corner here. That's lovely. So we just need to keep working our way through these. Some of the issues come when you have, because of the way that I've done it, these overlapping islands. Best way to fix it, it's probably for this one, for example, double tap A, press L, and it'll just grab that ring, and we can just move him separately. And here, for example, as well, let's just double tap A, press L, and just grab that out of the way. This one here, L, just move him out of the way. And I don't think I've done that anywhere else. No. Cool. So I'm going to work my way through packing these islands. There are add-ons to actually do it for you, but obviously you have to pay for them, so I'm trying to keep this as free as possible. So I'm just going to pause the video for a minute, and then I'll get back to you and show you how I've done it all. Okay, so this is how mine has ended up. So it's just a case of literally selecting all the different bits and moving them into place, just making sure that nothing is overlapping each other. So, for example, all of our hemispheres here, they've got a little bit of space between them. These are our gun and arm objects, and again, they all have a little bit of space in between them. And it's not pretty, but because we've done everything using object coordinates rather than UV coordinates, it's not going to make too much of an issue. So, the next stage gets a bit complicated, so I'll go over it slowly, but hopefully it'll make sense to you. So we want to go back into our shading workflow. And let's start picking some objects. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to close this window over here. So I'm going to drag my mouse cursor until it becomes this little crosshair and just join these areas together. And I'm going to make a little bit more space for this little window over here that's currently showing the wire mesh texture that we made earlier. Now, I'm currently in the Dalek main section. Doesn't really matter why, it's just this is the one I've started with. We are going to Shift A and search for an image texture. And then drag that in, press New, and let's call it just Mark 3 Dalek. And instead of it being a 1K texture, let's just drag our mouse over these two boxes. So click and drag, and then we want to make it a 4K texture. So just after that, press ×4. There we go. Actually, we're going to call this Mark 3 Dalek color, because we're going to bake the color, we're going to bake the metalness, we're going to bake the roughness, and we're going to bake the normal or bump maps. So we're going to have to create 4 of these textures. But for now, just leave it as Mark 3 Dalek color, and then press New Image. And over in this window here, in this drop down, we just want to select Mark 3 Dalek color. So at the moment that's completely blank, which is what we want. Now, let's right click and copy. And we're going to copy a version of this into every one of the materials we've created. So click our fender and then Control V. Pick our hemispheres or the blue plastic, press Control V, and then our, let's see, shoulder section. So the Dalek shoulders, Control V, and we're going to pick the, what we call the main metal, Control V, and I think, oh no, we need to do the eye globe, not the eye glow. So where it says slot 2, ignore that. We're going to change that to slot 1 and Control V. And have I got everything? Oh, I need to do the plunger as well, plunger rubber. So in there, Control V. Now, it's very, very important that in all these materials, this is the last thing that's selected. It should have the white box around it. So let's just double check. So we've got eye globe, yes. Main metal, yes. Blue plastic, yes. Dalek main, yes. Shoulders, yes. Plunger rubber, yes. And Dalek fender, yes. Okie dokes. Now, let's go over to our render settings. And you see, it has to be set for cycles for this. You can't bake anything in Eevee. Let's turn down our max number of samples to something like 1,000. And then we want to go down to this section here labeled Bake. So unfurl that. We want to change it from Bake type combined to just diffuse. And then where it says influence contributions, turn off direct and indirect. Make sure it's set to image textures as a target. And let's just turn down this margin. So let's make that 10 pixels. Okie dokes. Now, what we're going to do is basically take all this information, all the color information anyway, and bake it onto this image. So we need it to be 4K because otherwise it'll be quite low resolution. But all being well, let's go over and press bake. So you'll see this box in the corner here. It's having a think about everything it's doing. So we just have to leave it. And I'm going to pause for a moment while this bakes everything. Actually, no, I'm not, because I've just realized I only had one thing selected. So, very, very important fact. Press A to select everything. Otherwise, it just baked that fender. So, ignore that. And then, with everything selected, make sure you still got this Mark III Dalek color image selected. Press bake. So, it won't find anything for iGlow, because we're not baking anything to iGlow. But let's just leave everything else to have a think about what it's doing. And I'm just going to pause. Now I'm going to tell you why I'm an idiot. And actually, I'm glad that I caught this. I'm sorry if you did this after baking everything and you've got the same result I've done. But this is our baked texture map. Now you should see there's a lot of black. Everything that should be metal is currently black. And if I plug, we're in main metal here. If I plug this image texture we've just created into the base color, you'll see everything has gone black. And now this confused me. I couldn't work out why it was doing it, but I've just realized that we need to change everything in our Principal BSDF shaders for the metal. So Control Z to undo that. And we need to set the metallic value in the Principal BSDF to 0. Because Blender doesn't understand what it's trying to do with a metallic object, because as far as it knows, metallic objects have no diffuse color. Which, again, I'm very, very, very sorry that I forgot to mention or forgot about completely before I baked it. So, my bad. But again, let's just make sure this image texture is the last thing selected. And then I'm afraid we're going to have to bake it again. I'm really, really sorry. But I'm going to bake and I'm going to pause it. So, bake. And again, don't be an idiot like me. Make sure you have selected everything. So, A to select everything. And then we press bake. Okay, it's done it properly this time. So let's have a look over here. It's not very pretty, but if you zoom in, you can see you've got all the noise. In the skirt section, you've got all the noise. Now, let's just have a look how it looks on the Dalek. So let's pick our, I don't know, let's pick the skirt section. And at the moment, we've got our node setup plugged into the base color. What I'm going to do instead is take our Mark III Dalek color and just plug, let's zoom in so we can see, and let's just plug color to color. And it looks exactly the same. Maybe a little bit more low res, but not really. So Control Z to undo that, and then plug him back in. And yep, fine, happy with that. Let's Control Z undo that for now. And let's just move him over there. Now what we need to do, because if we close Blender, this won't save. If we go to image. So in this menu here, image, save as. I've got my texture folder set up. Let's just click on textures. And we're just going to call that Mark III Dalek color.png. And then just save as image. There we go. So just Control S to save everything. And let's go back into our main metal shader and turn the metallic back to 1. So now we have to bake out the rest of the materials. So let's do the roughness next. So just basically repeat the process. So I'm back in our Dalek main. Shift A, search, image texture, and then new. And we're going to call this Mark III Dalek roughness. We can leave it as 4K, new image. Now, because we're not baking color data, we're baking data, where it says color space here, we're going to change it from sRGB to non-color. Now we need to do that for the metallic and the bump as well. So let's just leave it there as non-color. And we're going to do exactly the same thing we did last time. So right click and copy it, and then paste it into all of our material slots. And shoulders. I put it in the main metal already? No, so put it in main metal. I've done that one. Just need the eye globe and the sucker. Okie dokes. So again, making sure that this is the last thing selected in all those material slots. Go over to our bake settings and this time change bake type from diffuse to roughness. And it's already done it automatically, but if not, just make sure your drop-down menu here is set to Mark III Dalek roughness. And then once again, we're going to bake. So A to select everything, unlike last time, and then bake. Cool, so that is the roughness all baked out. Now, I've actually realized we don't need to do the metallic because Blender can handle that perfectly well. If you did want to export it into something like Element 3D, then you would need to bake a metallic texture, but Blender doesn't make it easy, so let's not make life more complicated for ourselves. The last thing we need to do is bake the normal map. So again, let's just repeat what we've been doing. It's just, I've got my Dalek main selected, Shift A, search, image texture, new, let's call it Mark III Dalek normal. 4K is fine again, new image, and then make sure color space is set to non-color. So again, we want to shift, right click and copy that and paste it into all of our material slots. Like that. Shoulders. Main metal. Sorry, that was a failed experiment you saw. That was just ignore it. So normal, and then in our plunger, normal, and then eye globe. Cool. And then in our bake settings, we want to change that to normal. And then once again, A to select everything and bake. Cool. So that is our normal map saved. So if you look into it, you see it's all these various shades of blue and kind of purpley colors. That's fine. So again, let's just go here, image, save as, and let's call it Mark III Dalek normal, which is great. Save as image. And now I've also realized I am an idiot because of the way that we're texturing this. I do need to bake the metalness. Now, Blender doesn't have a bake type metal, so we have to fake it a little bit. So in our main metal here, what we want to do is Shift A, add or search for just RGB. And then we want to plug this RGB into the metal of the principal BSDF. Now, what we need to do, if we turn it all the way to black, the object isn't metal at all. If we turn it all the way to white, it's completely metal. So let's leave it at fully white. And then it seems really, really silly, but let's just Control-Shift-Click there. And that is the same as the material emitting. So it's the same as an emission shader, basically. So over in our bake type, we need to change it from bake type normal to bake type emit, which is a very, very silly way of doing it, but here we are. So anyway, in our shader editor, we're going to go Shift A, search for an image texture, new, and we're going to call it Mark III Dalek metalness, 4K, that's fine, new image, change it to non-color. And even though it's only in this one object here, we might as well do what we've done before. So right click, copy, and just paste it into all of our material slots. So that's that one, there's that one, that one. It's already in our main metal, but put it in shoulders, put it in here. Oh, already done that. I'll put it in here. Cool. And then we've got our Mark III Dalek metalness coming up over here. So again, this should be the last time we have to do this. I'm just going to go bake. Yes, I'm an idiot. A to select everything, then press bake. That is our metalness baked. So make sure you save that. So again, just image, save as Mark III Dalek metalness, save as image. Cool. And I've just remembered the last thing we need to do is bake the clear coat that we put on the skirt and these the balls. So again, we kind of have to fake it because there's no specific output. So we're going to do basically what we did for the metalness. We're going to, with the skirt selected, we're just going to Shift A, search image texture, new. We're going to call it Mark III Dalek. Oh, I've already got one here. Spoiler alert. Get rid of that. We're going to call it new Mark III Dalek clear coat weight. And then new image. Click on that and just change the color space to non-color. So we need it in our Dalek main and also these little balls. So copy, select our hemispheres and Control V. And then in our principal BSDF shader, we're going to Shift A, search for RGB and plug that into the coat section where it says weight. And then once again, white is 100% clear coat, black is no clear coat. So we want it quite light gray. And then we're going to Control Shift click on it. So that's all great. And then in the Dalek skirt as well, we want to add that. In fact, we can copy it over. So copy in the Dalek main, Control V, and then plug that into our coat weight. And then Control Shift click on that. So now it's this gray value. We only need it for the Dalek main and the blue plastic. So that's fine. But let's just make sure clear coat weight is selected as the last object. So that's the Dalek main. And then clear coat weight. And then make sure bake type is set to emit. And with our ball and main selected, just press bake. Cool, that's done. So save that image. Save as Mark III Dalek clear coat weight. Save that. And the last thing we need to do is the roughness of the clear coat. So again, if we just plug our RGB, let's just Control Shift click the principal shader. Let's just drag the RGB out of the weight and into the roughness. Let's just have a look, wait for that to update. So fully black is no roughness at all. We want to make it a kind of slightly darker gray. And then let's just copy that, put it into the hemispheres or the blue plastic. Delete this RGB here and then Control V and then plug that into the roughness. And then just Control Shift click that just to see what it's doing. Wait for that. Yeah, that looks about right. Maybe let's just change the value ever so slightly, make it a little bit shinier. Oh no, maybe a bit less shiny. You can play with that. And again, so last thing we need to Shift A, search, image texture, new, Mark III Dalek, clear coat, roughness, new image, non-color. Let's copy that and put it into Dalek main, paste. There we go. And then Control Shift click on the RGB value here and select our blue plastic and Control Shift click on the RGB value here. Let's just make sure that Dalek clear coat roughness is the last thing selected. That's there. And then let's select our dome, our blue plastic, our little Dalek balls, and the skirt. And again, bake type emission. And let's just bake that again. Cool, and that is the clear coat roughness baked as well. That is all the baking done. So let's just make sure you save that. So this little box here, image, save as, Mark III Dalek clear coat roughness, which you can sing to the tune of Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles if you get bored. So just save as image. Now let's just remind ourselves of what we've got. We've got the color, so that's the diffuse color. We've got the roughness. We've got the normal data, we have got the metalness, we have got the clear coat weight, and we've got the clear coat roughness. I've just noticed I forgot to bake the clear coat weight for the eye discs, which is annoying, but that's fine. So now what we need to do is just remove all the materials from our Dalek and plug in these new image textures we've created. So let's go back into layout mode. Let's go into viewport shading, and I suppose the best way to do it is just to do it. So let's click on all of our individual objects, and over in this material, just hit this minus icon, and minus. So everything's going to go back to this default white color. Minus. Minus. Just make sure you get everything. Minus. These objects here. Minus. And remove the eye globe. Minus. Let's turn off compositing as well, so just compositor disabled. Okay, now we want to create a new material. So let's just click on our skirt, press new, and we're going to call it Mark III Shorecraft Dalek. Okay, let's go back into our shading editor. So shading, and let's click on the principal BSDF, and let's do it manually. There is a way of doing this in Node Wrangler, but let's just do it manually. So let's just go to where you've saved all your textures. Dalek tutorial textures. Cool. And let's just start bringing them all in. So can we do this? Can we just box select everything and just drag it in? Yes, we can. They're in the wrong order, but that's fine. So let's just find our color, which is here. Just drag that up, plug it into the base color of the principal BSDF. That updates there. Our roughness, let's drag that into the roughness. The metalness, let's drag him color into metallic. Clear coat weight, so let's drop that down. Clear coat weight, color into color. Oh, poo, that hasn't worked. Oh, hold on. I think it may have done, actually. So let's just drag our roughness. Let's just move him up. Oh, I see what I've done. I've dragged the clear coat roughness into the normal roughness. So let's just disconnect that and move him down. And let's roughness to roughness. And then clear coat roughness into clear coat roughness. Excellent, that has worked. Lovely. And then we've just got our normal here. So the only one that's difficult to do is the normal. So let's just make some space. Drag that there. We're going to Shift A, search for a normal map. So vector normal map. Put him there. Color to color. And normal into normal. Lovely. And then we just want to do that for all the other objects. So I'm just going to pause while I do that. I have added the Mark III Shawcraft Dalek material to all of the objects, except these guys here. So let's grab those, delete main metal, and then just bring in Mark III Shawcraft Dalek. That's great. And then if we go back into layout, now you see we're still missing a few objects, so let's just Alt-H to unhide everything. That brings back the shoulder mesh, the ears, the ear glows, and our little neck mesh here. But now, everything is controlled by these little image textures. So if we go back into viewport render, just leave cycles to that, and let's just turn our compositor back on. There we go. So it looks exactly the same as it did before we did all of that work, and this was a very, very long video. I'm sorry that it's so tedious. UV unwrapping and baking isn't exciting, but it's just useful. If you need to rewatch it a couple of times, or if you have questions, please do tell me. But yeah, so your Dalek should look exactly the same, except now it's taking up a lot less memory. So we've got 2 more videos to do. It's going to be rigging the Dalek, and I'm going to show you how to control this emission value by using an audio file. But go have a drink, go have some cake, and I will see you in the next video.